the effect that is happening now, and it's the effect it's having on individuals that are having to stay inside. So whether it be loneliness or financial worries or anxieties or how to cope with so many extra people being in the house all the time. So all of the effects and how people deal with them on an individual basis.
Obviously there's a big effect on the economy. What that's going to lead to, I don't know. We're potentially into a big recession, which is not very good. People can't travel internationally, can't go on holiday, can't do very much. So that's a problem for the future. The government's tried very hard in terms of its support, so we'll see how that delivers the solution. Secondly, if you look at your older relatives or people in different parts of the country, you're definitely restricted to seeing those. You can only do it by technology, which again is not as good as being in the cuddle or whatever.
The quarantine has put a magnifying glass on kind of feelings of anxiety and loneliness. A lot of people are isolated and a lot of people are kind of worried about the future. And then they've also got this kind of very real threat looming over them every time they want to leave the house. You see people in masks that you're concerned about catching something. So there's kind of just a general feeling of kind of anxiety in the air, I think. But yeah, that's been the kind of experience for me.
I'd say out. It's obviously very unknown. It's not a lot of people have been through something like this before, so it's uncharted waters for most. It's about trying to keep yourself busy, in my opinion, and obviously making sure that you're not sat around like umming and ahhing, thinking of the worst case scenario and trying to look on the bright side of things.
In the last few months, humanity has faced its greatest challenge since the Second World War with the arrival of the coronavirus. With no vaccine available, this deadly illness has claimed over 330,000 lives worldwide and rising. We have been stripped to the bare minimum in order to fight this invisible enemy. This includes the closure of social places where people can interact and create memories, including restaurants, parks, cinemas, hair salons, and all retail apart from the essential food and medicine outlets. Additionally, all schools, colleges, and universities have closed their doors until further notice. Initially, people didn't take the threat of the virus seriously, which is why when they heard the name coronavirus, the online community turned it into a global joke, for example, blaming it on the Corona beer brand or creating hilarious memes and GIFs, which were posted on social media platforms such as Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, and the uprising TikTok. As the situation rapidly got worse, decisions were made that would impact the world for a very long time. On the 18th of March, Prime Minister Boris Johnson declared that all educational institutions were to be closed by Friday and not open their doors again until the virus had been beaten, except for looking after the children of key workers and vulnerable children.
After schools shut their gates from Friday afternoon, they will remain closed for most pupils, for the vast majority of pupils, until further notice.
It was all quite rushed, so it was very short notice. I think we found out on Wednesday that they were going to close on Friday. It wasn't a complete surprise, and in some ways it was a bit of a relief, because I think that's when people were starting to realise just how bad it was all going to get, and other schools in other countries had closed. So the time it wasn't really, you couldn't really think about it. It just happened over a couple of days, and the main concern was making sure that the children understood what was going to happen and that we could get everything in place for them. But for me personally, because I'm a supply teacher, I think, I realised, well, I'm just going to have no work. So, and obviously until it's all over, I probably won't work again now until September. So, so there was that realisation as well.
Another massive consequence of the virus was that in addition to school closures, all exams were cancelled.
This does mean that exams will not take place as planned in May and June, though we will make sure that pupils get the qualifications they need and deserve for their academic career.
This left hundreds and thousands of students all over the UK confused, and for some let down because they felt that all their hard work and effort for the past 2 years had been for nothing. As a student in my second year of a level 3 CTEC diploma in creative media production, I felt the same way. However, Boris Johnson has assured us that we will still get the qualifications we deserve. It just means that our grades will be awarded by other means. This will include past assessments and any coursework we have submitted as evidence. But students weren't the only ones who were left in the dark. On the 23rd of March, employed workers across the country were told that they had to work from home unless impossible. Only essential workers should leave their homes in order to minimise the risk of the virus spreading. This unprecedented move in ordering the closure of many businesses would cripple the UK's economy. With their businesses forced to close, employers simply could not afford to pay their staff, and the only alternative seemed to simply lay them off. Without any income, how can people live? There are still bills to pay, mortgage or rent payments to be met, and of course, food to buy. With this in mind, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, Rishi Sunak, laid out a comprehensive set of financial measures to support those people who are no longer able to work and enable employers to avoid the complete closure of their businesses. The government introduced a furlough scheme in which they would agree for as long as needed to pay 80% of all wages for people who could no longer work. Employers could apply to the scheme, thus relieving the huge financial burden it would put upon them. Some generous employers also agreed to top up the remaining 20% of their workers' salaries. With reduced outgoings as a result of not being able to go anywhere, this has removed a great deal of financial anxiety for many people and reinforced their resolve to stay at home. Of course, this scheme was no use to self-employed workers, and following further pressure on the government, it was then announced that self-employed workers would also be able to access funds based upon their previous earnings. This scheme will cost the country billions of pounds, and only time will tell how it will affect our future economy. But what is certain is that the financial after effects of the virus will be felt for many years to come. There is no such thing as free money, so at some point in the future we will need to repay this essential bailout.
It's a bit of an odd one. It don't feel real. I'm getting paid every month and not having to do anything, which is, I guess that's the only positive to it in my opinion. I mean, I enjoy doing my work quite a lot. I mean, I'm a personal trainer, so I help a lot of people, so although I'm getting paid, I'm still not really being able to fulfill my full job of helping them, so it's a bit of a, I don't know, it's a bit of an odd feeling. It's nice to still get, like I say, the financial benefit, but I'd much rather be back at work, socialising a bit more as always, the perk of the job.
This is just what's happened in the UK. Around the world, similar events have taken place, apart from the few countries who refuse to believe the reality of the situation we were in. For example, the Brazilian president Jair Bolsonaro has called coronavirus nothing more than a little flu and continues to play down the virus to the horror of the rest of the world. However, the majority of the people are thankfully listening to the advice from the government by keeping a social distance of 2 meters at all times, washing their hands regularly and staying at home as much as possible, apart from the essential food shop once every week or to seek medical attention. As a result of the changes, the rate at which the virus has been able to spread has been dramatically reduced, meaning that our National Health Service has not been completely overwhelmed and that lives will be saved. Meanwhile though, while some things are getting better outside, the people who are stuck on the inside are starting to feel the impact of the things they missed the most, which they used to have regular access to every day. This is what I like to call the quarantine effect. The rapid realisation that it's going to be a reasonably long time before we have access to those things again.
Lots of different things. I mean, I don't think I'm staying completely sane, but I'm giving it a go. So trying to do a bit of exercise. I've been doing a lot of yoga. I've also been doing kind of some dance, like little dance classes on Instagram, which would be fun. I think I'm very lucky in that I'm still working, so that gives me a structure. So the majority of my days in the week, I'm doing working hours. So even though that means I'm sitting at my computer a lot of the time, it does mean that the days sort of go fairly quickly. And I can kind of I enjoy my lunch break and I enjoy my evenings, as opposed to kind of the day feeling like it's kind of all the same and having to fill all that time. So that's been good. I'm also relearning how to drive, because I wanted to give myself a little kind of challenge during lockdown. So I'm being taken out on the quieter London roads and trying to remember how to drive again. Reading's been great, because that's a bit of escapism. Lots of TV, a bit too much TV probably, but enjoying watching box sets on Netflix and things, and then also kind of spending time with my boyfriend, because we're kind of locked down together, and it's probably the most time we've spent together like uninterrupted since like in our whole relationship, and we don't want to kill each other yet, so that's quite positive. So yeah, they're all the things keeping me sane, and of course talking to friends and family as well is a huge help.
So I only stopped working when I became ill a little bit with COVID-19 symptoms. But I could physically go to work. So it gives me a focus from Monday to Friday in terms of what I need to do. If I was home, it may have been more difficult, even though I could work from home. Secondly, we go walking around these lovely hills that are close to where we live, and we can walk around the local houses and roadways as well. So that's very good. And spending time with the family, obviously, talking with them is good.
Well, when we first started staying at home, and I wasn't able to work, I came up with an idea of creating a story time for children online. I know there's lots of content on YouTube and things like that, but I think what I realised for these children is that the children that I work with, that keeping a connection with the school is really important, because they're not going to be able to see their friends. So if they can see familiar faces, it might help. And so I set up a little story corner, and then I've been uploading stories onto YouTube so that children that know me can see me reading a story. At the beginning I did quite a lot, because obviously everything was all very sort of up in the air, and then as weeks have gone by I've reduced it and probably do 1 or 2 now a week, just to keep it going. And apart from that, I like to go out walking, and I also do some craft. So I love to crochet, so I've got 3 relatives that are all in the NHS, so I've made them all a little bear and sent it to them, the ones with the mask on. They've all got little masks and scrubs on, and just sent it to them to let them know that I'm thinking of them.
Stay as sane as I can. I've tried to be very productive with my time. Obviously I like to keep fairly fit anyway, so I exercise quite a lot, go out for me walk a day, try and do a bit of work in the garden in terms of weights and stuff. I've been quite productive in terms of done a couple of courses to obviously try and develop my career further and my knowledge further for work, and for trying to push myself to as good as I can be. Personally as well, I'm looking to develop my own business as well in the future, so I've set about developing a business plan and researching that. So I've used the time, or the extra time I've been given, very, very effectively, and obviously time's one of the best gifts you can have, really.
These are the opinions of my family, but many others are probably feeling the same way, which is why it is essential that we continue to keep ourselves busy by either sticking to a regular routine patterns or learning a new skill at home. If you have a family at home, then try to speak to them as much as possible to maintain that social environment. If that's not enough, then thanks to modern technology, through using online community-based applications such as Zoom, FaceTime, Skype, Microsoft Teams, you can establish that face-to-face communication with your friends from wherever you are in the world with a touch of a button. Social connections are important to happiness, health, and overall feelings of connectivity to society. Lack of these connections can lead to decreased self-esteem and a shorter lifespan. The negative effects of loneliness can start to settle in within just over 1 day of not socialising.
Well, obviously we can't socialise and meet up with friends and family. So, the sort of next best thing is having things like Zoom and FaceTime. So we've got both sets of grandparents on that, so we're able to talk with them. And I've also had a Zoom meeting with some friends from college, and that's been really nice because some of them I haven't spoken to for years. So so we've been able to do that. And then additionally, I've been able to have a coffee with our next door neighbour when we've socially distanced, stood either side of the gate and been able to have a chat, and that's been nice to be able to do that face to face.
So in terms of socialising with friends and family, we use technology in terms of doing that. So for me, I'm a bit of a technophobe, so I don't use all the technology available. But I use FaceTime with my parents, for example. And I know in terms of my family, they use Zoom as well. And when I was working from home, I used Teams. I could use Teams to get in contact with my friends and also my colleagues at work.
Family's been quite easy because obviously I live with them, so it's I see them most days. But I mean, having dinner together and chilling out and having a bit of a laugh is quite nice, since I've not really lived with them for a while. So it's good to obviously rekindle that love there. Regards to friends, obviously social media has been very important in this time. Both keeping them up to date with what I'm doing, then also seeing what they're doing. But yeah, conversing through social media and other platforms has been really helpful.
Lots of Zoom chats with friends. So me and my girlfriends, we do girly drinks most Fridays, where we just kind of have a bit of a vent about the week and kind of check in with each other with a glass of wine or gin or soft drink if we prefer. So that's been quite nice. I did a quiz for my friends over Zoom at the weekend. And then other than that, it's just kind of the normal things like FaceTiming. I've been FaceTiming mum a lot, and WhatsApp messaging people in various groups where we chat about silly things like RuPaul's Drag Race and stuff like that. So they're kind of the key things. And then I'm also using Zoom to kind of chat to work colleagues. So my work colleagues who have been furloughed, we still have like Friday work drinks to sort of keep tabs on each other and make sure that we're all doing okay.
Strangely though, there have also been some positive outcomes from the enforced lockdown. Thanks to the major decrease level in car travel, plane travel and train travel, pollution levels in most highly populated cities have reduced significantly, which our planet desperately needs. Spending time together has also had a positive effect on many aspects of family life. Being able to eat together, exercise together and socialise together, all simple pleasures that had sadly disappeared from many of our lives, which have become so busy. Many of us are learning to appreciate this gift of time, and after this crisis has passed, it will be interesting to see if we go back to our old ways or take on the positive aspects that have emerged. And as Winston Churchill once said, the positive thinker sees the invisible, feels the intangible, and achieves the impossible.
I hope that I'll kind of hold on to a slightly calmer way of life. Like before lockdown, I was incredibly busy, like had a full-time job, was doing lots of extracurricular theatre, as well in my spare time, always kind of had a kind of full week of social engagements and things. And actually what this lockdown's done is forced me to slow right down and kind of just get used to kind of spending time not doing much and that being okay. So I hope that I can kind of take that with me and learn how to not take on so much, even though it will be tempting once things open again to kind of just want to do everything, but kind of actually, you know, prioritising time for me in my home. So I want to take that with me, and also kind of not eating out as much, not spending money just on convenience. It's been incredible seeing how much money I spend on eating out and kind of lunches while I'm at work and things. So hoping that I can kind of keep some of the financial benefits of lockdown when we're out of this. So yeah, that's kind of a big thing. And then keeping up things like exercise and cooking and stuff.
So spending time with my family, you know, walking around, having the opportunity to walk around and explore my local environment with the hills around Leckhampton has been really important. Also just working with a close group of people at work has been really good. And also just my view of the sort of NHS and the key workers has been re-emphasised, how important they are.
Positives, like I said earlier, obviously the courses that I've been doing and pushing towards future development and what I want to do long term has been a massive positive in my eyes. But the biggest thing for me is getting closer with my family. Obviously I've not lived with them for close to, I'd probably say 9 years now. I've not really lived with them, so it's quite nice to spend a bit more time with them, come closer with my brother and my parents has always been really nice.
I think I'm going to take a lot of positive things forward from this. You know, it's a terrible thing, but you know, I think there are things that people have realised about taking time, how valuable it is for us to be able to spend time together. You know, I've been going out for a walk every night with Dad, and it's not something that we did before, so I really hope that we can carry on doing that, not having to rush about, you know, everywhere. You know, life is so busy normally, so you know, when this is all finished, you know, I hope that we can all sort of like appreciate, you know, take a little bit more time for everything, and you know, to enjoy things like exercise. You know, you see so many people out exercising now, and I think, you know, that is one thing that everybody, you know, could do to help to sort of improve the quality of their life in the future. And also the way that everybody has shown kindness to each other and the appreciation of the NHS. You know, I think once this is over, people, you know, really will realise just, you know, what a valuable thing it is to have in this country, and you know, just how thankful we're going to be to all of them that have worked so hard.